On 13th October 1917, one of 20th century's most amazing miracles took place in a small town in Portugal. It was a miracle like those read about in the Bible during the time of Moses. And this miracle was seen by a crowd estimated to be between 30,000 and 100,000 people, and was reported in the secular media of the time. The crowd ranged from faithful believers to socialists who were angered by the idea of there being a God. There are many accounts of what happened. This series will present a reading of the autobiography of Lucia, one of the 3 children who saw the visions of the Virgin Mary. She not only described what she saw in the apparitions, but also what happened to the children leading up to and after the miracle. The 13th of July was close at hand, and I was still doubtful as to whether I should go. I thought to myself, if it's the devil, why should I go to see him? If they ask me why I'm not going, I'll say that I'm afraid it might be the devil who is appearing to us, and for that reason, I'm not going. Let Jacinta and Francesco do as they like. I'm not going back to the Cova da Iria anymore. My decision made, I was firmly resolved to act on it. By the evening of the 12th, the people were already gathering in anticipation of the events of the following day. I therefore called Jacinta and Francesco and told them of my resolution. "We're going," they answered. "The lady said we were to go." Jacinta volunteered to speak to the lady, but she was so upset over my not going that she started to cry. I asked the reason for her tears. "Because you don't want to go." "No, I'm not going. Listen, if the lady asks for me, tell her I'm not going, because I'm afraid it may be the devil." I left them then to go and hide, and so avoid having to speak to all the people who came looking for me to ask questions. My mother thought I was playing with the children of the village, when all the time I was hidden behind the bramble bushes in a neighbor's property which adjoined the Arniero, a little to the east of the well which I have mentioned so many times already. She scolded me as soon as I got home that night. "A fine little plaster saint you are, to be sure. All the time you have left for minding the sheep, you do nothing but play. And what's more, you have to do it in such a way that nobody can find you." On the following day, when it was nearly time to leave, I suddenly felt I had to go, impelled by a strange force that I could hardly resist. Then I set out and called at my uncle's house to see if Jacinta was still there. I found her in her room, together with her brother Francesco, kneeling beside the bed, crying. "Aren't you going then?" I asked. "Not without you. We don't dare. Do come." "Yes, I'm going," I replied. Their faces lighted up with joy, and they set out with me. Crowds of people were waiting for us along the road, and only with difficulty did we finally get there. A few moments after arriving at the Cova da Iria, near the Holmoke, Where a large number of people were praying the rosary, we saw the flash of light once more, and a moment later, Our Lady appeared on the Hallmark. "What do you want of me?" I asked. "I want you to come here on the 13th of next month, to continue to pray the rosary every day in honor of Our Lady of the Rosary, in order to obtain peace for the world and the end of the war, because only she can help you. I would like to ask you to tell us who you are and to work a miracle so that everybody will believe that you are appearing to us. Continue to come here every month. In October, I will tell you who I am and what I want, and I will perform a miracle for all to see and believe." I then made some requests, but I cannot recall now just what they were. What I do remember is that Our Lady said it was necessary for such people to pray the rosary in order to obtain these graces during the year. And she continued, "Sacrifice yourselves for sinners, and say many times, especially whenever you make some sacrifice, 'O Jesus, it is for love of you, for the conversion of sinners, and in reparation for the sins committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary.'" As Our Lady spoke these last words, she opened her hands once more, as she had done during the 2 previous months. The rays of light seemed to penetrate the earth, and we saw, as it were, a sea of fire. Plunged in this fire were demons and souls in human form, like transparent burning embers, all blackened or burnished bronze, floating about in the conflagration, now raised into the air by the flames that issued from within themselves, together with great clouds of smoke now falling back on every side like sparks in huge fires, without weight or equilibrium, amid shrieks and groans of pain and despair, which horrified us and made us tremble with fear. It must have been this sight which caused me to cry out, as people say they heard me. The demons could be distinguished by their terrifying and repellent likeness to frightful and unknown animals, black and transparent like burning coals. Terrified, and as if to plead for succor, we looked up at Our Lady, who said to us so kindly and so sadly, "You have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved, and there will be peace. The war is going to end. But if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. When you see a night illumined by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given you by God that He is about to punish the world for its crimes, by means of war, famine, and persecution of the Church and of the Holy Father. To prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. The good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer, various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, and she will be converted, and a period of peace will be granted to the world. Then at the left of Our Lady, and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. but they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, "Penance, penance, penance." And we saw in an immense light that is God, something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it, a bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, men and women religious going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross of rough-hewn trunks, as of a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting step. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees, at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way, there died one after another the other bishops, priests, men and women religious, and various lay people of different ranks. Beneath the two arms of the cross, there were two angels, each with a crystal aspersorium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. In Portugal, the dogma of faith will always be preserved. Do not tell this to anybody. Francesco, yes, you may tell him. When you pray the rosary, say after each mystery, "O my Jesus, forgive us, save us from the fire of hell. Lead all souls into heaven, especially those who are most in need." After this, there was a moment of silence, and then I asked, "Is there anything more that you want of me?" "No, I do not want anything more of you today." Then, as before, Our Lady began to ascend towards the east, until she finally disappeared in the immense distance of the firmament.